Hello, I'm Helen Bradley. Welcome to this video tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can add a personalized identity plate to your Lightroom interface. In this video tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can customize the identity plate that sits up here in Lightroom. Now, until recently, I had my own custom identity plate, but when I installed a Lightroom update, I got one that has a link to getting started with Lightroom Mobile. I'm going to show you how I can get my old one back, and then we're going to have a look at creating one of your very own. While with this one, there's a down pointing arrow here that I can select to go and change my identity plate. But if you're not getting that option, you can always go to Edit and then choose Identity Plate Setup. This is the Identity Plate Editor, and right now I'm seeing the Lightroom Mobile one that came with my recent update. But I could go back to the original Lightroom one. I'll click on that, and you can see it now says Adobe Lightroom 5. But I have my own custom ones as well. Let's just click down here and go to a personalized version. And here's one that has my name, Helen Bradley. And I have some others that have images in them. This is another one that I often use. And now I'm going to show you how you can create your own custom identity plate for Lightroom and then go ahead and install it. But before we leave here, let's just have a look over here. This is showing us the typeface for the module picker button. So these are these buttons up here, and we're being told that this is Myriad Web Pro. If we want to match our text to this, we'll know that inside Photoshop in a minute we'll want to be choosing Myriad Web Pro as our typeface. Let's just cancel out of here for now, and let's go to Photoshop. Here we are inside Photoshop, and I'm going to show you the basics of creating an identity plate to use in Lightroom. The first thing to focus on is the size, because there is no option inside Lightroom for you to resize this, so you have to get it right in Photoshop first of all. Now, my experimentation is that something like about 50 pixels in height is a good height. So I have a document here that is 50 pixels high by 400 pixels wide, and that seems to fit pretty well in Lightroom. You're worried about not only having a document here that is too high, so bits of it are going to get cut off, but also one that is too wide that you're going to lose the end of it. Now, for this particular identity plate, I wanted to use some text that had been designed for me by an illustrator, but there are a few problems with this. The first of it is that this is black text, and if you remember rightly, Lightroom is a black interface, so black text isn't going to show up. The other thing is that this document is way too big to use. So what I did was I created a document the correct size. So this is 50 pixels high by 400 wide. I just chose File, New, and made sure that it was 400 wide, 50 high, and that it had a resolution of around 72 pixels per inch and a transparent background. Click OK, and there's your document. Now I want to create something that can be used in Lightroom. Let's just close this one. And Lightroom has a black background, so anything I create I want to test against black just to see how it looks. So with the background layer of this document selected and black as my background color here, I'm going to press Control Backspace, and we do Command Backspace on the Mac, and that just fills that with black. And I'm going to add a new layer that I'm going to do my work on. So this allows me to test to see how my design is going to look. Let's just resize that a little bit so we can see it at a bigger size, but without changing the actual physical size. Let's go to this document here, and I wanted to select the text that I had created, so I'm just going to click on the magic wand tool here. And I'm going to make sure that contiguous is not selected so that I can select all the background to this image, and then I'm just going to invert it, select inverse. And now I'm going to choose Edit Copy to copy it to the Windows clipboard, go into my document and choose Edit Paste to paste it in place. Now you can see it's much larger than the document itself. In fact, it's so large that we can't really see it. Well, we also can't see it because it's black on black. So let's just turn the black layer off for now. Let's go and get our selection tool and we'll press Control 0 and then Control T, because that shows us the transformation handles and also the image at a size that we can see those handles to start scaling it. I'm going to hold Shift and just drag in until this fits inside this new document, and then click the check mark here. So I can discard this particular document now as I don't need it any longer. Here you can see that this is not going to show up inside Lightroom because it's black on black. So let's target this layer, and a very easy solution for me to make it white is just to invert the colors on this layer, make it look like a photographic negative. Image, Adjustments, Invert. Now it's white text, and when I show it up against the black background we can see what it's going to look like. Now if I wanted to add text and an image, this is exactly what I would do. This is an image, so I could add a little picture in here, I could add my signature. If I wanted to add some text as well that would then match the layout of Lightroom, I would click here and I would go and pick up my Myriad Web Pro or whatever font I was already using for the Lightroom interface if I wanted to match that. Here's Myriad Web Pro. So I'm just going to type photography. And obviously the font size is too large, so I'm just going to select over it and then decrease the font size until it's a size that it's going to work for my text. .24 points is going to be pretty good, so I'm just going to commit that. So this is looking pretty good right now. One thing I am a little concerned about though is that this text here is a little bit fuzzy coming in from that PNG file. It seems to be a little fuzzier than I would like it to be. Well, I'm going to sharpen it before I leave. Photoshop, Filter, Sharpen. I'm just going to use Unsharp Mask for this because it doesn't need to be too technical. I'm going to lower my radius to a lower value, threshold to 3, radius to about 0.6, and just increase the amount until it gets back to the crisp look that it had in the original document. Just click OK. So I'm pretty happy with this now, and I'm ready to take it to Lightroom. One thing I will need to do before I do that though is to turn off this background layer so it's all white, because I want the text to be transparent when it reaches Lightroom so that we can see the Lightroom background here and we'll just see the white text on top. So everything's ready to go now. I just need to save it, and to do that I need to save it as a PNG file. PNG is a format that saves transparency. It's all going to be flattened to a single layer, but it will also have transparency in it. So let's choose File, Save As, and let's make sure that we select PNG as our format. And I'm just going to call this LR logo. And I'll click OK. Now if I wanted this to remain editable, for example if I get it to Lightroom and don't like it and just want to make some changes to it, then I'll want to turn everything back on and just save this as a PSD file, because the PSD file will be editable. It will retain the layers and everything. So I'm going to save that as a PSD version of the same document, and I'm going to make sure that this is called the same thing. LR logo, PSD, click Save. So I could close Photoshop down at this stage. And to go and get our file, we'll now choose Edit and then Identity Plate Setup. We're going to choose a personalized setup, and I want to create a new image here, so I'm going to clear out the existing one and I'm going to click to locate my file. I'm going to My Documents and I'm going to locate my LR logo PNG file. Click it and click Open. And it now appears inside Lightroom, and we can check to make sure it's looking okay before we go any further. And if we're happy with it, then we could just click OK. But I like to save mine so I can get it back later on in case something happens, such as a Lightroom installation knocks it out. So from the custom drop down list here, I'm going to choose Save As, and I'm going to call this LR logo for Identity Plate. Well, let's actually call it Personal. and click Save. So that's now saved in this list here, so we can always get back to it if we want to. But to apply it and go on with the work in Lightroom, we'll just click OK. This logo will appear here every time we start up Lightroom from now on. I'm Helen Bradley. Thank you for joining me for this video tutorial. Look out for more of my video tutorials here on my YouTube channel, and consider subscribing to my channel and you'll be alerted when new videos are released. And visit my website at projectwoman.com, where you'll find more tips, tricks and tutorials on a range of applications including Photoshop, Lightroom, Illustrator and a whole lot more.